Hey there, welcome to another episode of the Playing in the Sandbox podcast, where we are deeply committed to inspiring action and shifting perspectives in today's leaders. And in the sandbox today, I'm going to be talking with you about a topic that I have really been noodling with, kind of just digging into for some time now. And the topic is, are you a pot stirrer or are you a leader? Because I have seen in many cases in recent months and over the last year, we have a lot of pot stirrers out there in the leadership world that are just out there stirring things up and not really part of the solution to create opportunity for change for the team or even for themselves. So in today's episode, we're going to dive into the difference between a pot stirrer and a leader. Which one are you? And do you know the difference? So you're going to want to grab a pen and paper. You're going to want to head on over to tammyjbond.com/podcast. Click on this episode and download your action plan, because I have a lot of steps. I have a lot of checklists for you to check off and check into to see where you land on the pot stirrer versus leader list. And you're going to want to grab your pen and paper, take off your shoes, dig your toes in, get into the sandbox with me, and let's get started on, hey, leader, are you a pot stirrer or a leader? Join me now. We'll see you in the sandbox. All right, welcome into the sandbox. I am excited that you're here today because I've been wanting to talk about this topic for a while now on, are you a pot stirrer or a leader? I have the opportunity to work and talk with and coach and facilitate and train leaders and leadership teams all over the country on all sorts of topics around leadership, mostly around communication and how they're communicating effectively one with another, how to navigate conflict. That's probably my most favorite topic to actually talk about, because I'm super passionate around challenging the status quo of our leadership and challenging the status quo of the way that we approach conflict. Are we just approaching to get by, or are we approaching to truly resolve and solve the issues? And, it's kind of like toss the coin up in the air, flip the coin and see what happens, to see which side we land on. 50-50, maybe. I'd be more leaning toward one other side than the other. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. I'm here to talk about today pot stirring, because I've seen this phenomenon where we have a lot of leaders that have been that were promoted because of loyalty or due to loyalty, were promoted during a time where they were the ones that were willing to go the extra mile, come into the office during COVID. They were promoted because they were the most highly visible, because they were in the office, and there were people that were working remote that did not have as high a visibility, and so they didn't make it for the promotion in the office. What I've noticed as a result is that we've hired a lot of, or promoted people into leadership roles who are really comfortable stirring up chaos, because that's what they were promoted during a time of chaos. That's what they know worked to get their promotion. I just want you to play with me here for a minute. And I know there's going to be people that are probably going to send me emails, or people that are going to make comments about, I don't believe this. Okay, that's okay that you don't believe it. Let me tell you what I see. The view from my chair is, we have people in leadership positions that are really comfortable creating chaos by stirring the pot and not truly leading people. And what that shows up like, or how that shows up in the workplace, is inconsistent communication, avoiding responsibility. We're always deflecting it. We're making it somebody else. Well, it's not my problem. It's somebody else's problem. And there are leaders all around that are doing that. They're spreading negativity because, well, they can't trust the message that they get, because they're not sure that it's the right message, because we've just come out of a whole season where messaging was inconsistent. And as much as we want to tell each other that, oh, this whole online approach to the way we have meetings and Zoom calls and the like, and that really has increased our communication, I will beg to differ. I actually think it's made our communication more challenging. And I think it's actually reduced the efficiency and the success of communication, because we're relying on the technology to transport a message instead of having a face-to-face dialogue in person. And I'm sorry, having it, y'all, on a screen, when we're going to, I'm going to be on one side, you're going to be on the other, and we're going to be on a screen together. When we're in that mode of communication, we are losing a lot of things on the nuances for effective and efficient communication in the workplace with a team that helps build a healthy culture. I'm not saying it can't work. I'm just saying we have a lot of people doing it that are not skilled or trained and that don't have the know-how on how to effectively communicate in the workplace, in the technology workplace today. So we've created this spinning out in chaos, and people that thrive in chaos are disruptive and like to keep the chaos flowing, which they then become a pot stirrer as our companies and as our teams are coming back into the workplace to work together on a more consistent and regular basis. We have these individuals that are just constantly stirring chaos, and they're a pot stirrer of trouble and problems and trauma. Because why? Because that's what they've been used to, and that's what works for them, and they think that's normal. They don't understand that there's a different way of doing it. I believe that pot stirring is also a form of manipulation. I've seen it in leaders where we have one leader who's the head of a team or the head of an organization that's constantly deflecting and stirring things up to get a reaction or to manipulate and strong arm people into a decision that suits them. They exploit others and others' weaknesses, and it creates tension in the workplace. They do it for their own self fulfilling need and want to get the advantage over an individual or over the team. If I can strong arm you, I don't need to have the answer and I don't need to have the solution exactly as it needs to be done. I'm just going to get you to do it my way. And oh, by the way, I'm not going to take any responsibility when it doesn't work. That's a pot stirrer in the most gluttonous form. I'm going to say gluttonous because that's where I think pot stirring comes in. I think it's a gluttonous attempt to try to get control in a situation where there is no control to be had by you. There's a collaboration that's wanted. There is, we're all in this together. And how do we make decisions cohesively, not to manipulate one to another? How do we do that? Balanced leadership is all about listening to the view from other people's chairs. And when I think about pot stirrers in the workplace today, and I can visualize the faces of several people in teams that I'm working with that are the quintessential pot stirrer in that team. I can think about my husband and stories he's told me about his workplace and identify those pot stirrers. People that just want to bring complaints, they don't want to bring solutions, and they want to be whiners in the environment, or say, well, that's fine that that's what you want to do for a plan, but I don't agree with it. So therefore, I'm going to sit back with my arms folded, and I'm not going to be participating with you in anything toward that plan because I don't agree with it. And instead of saying, I don't agree with it, but what if, or have we tried, or I'm curious, or help me understand, they're not leading with any of those questions. They're just shutting everything down. Well, that's a masterful form of manipulation to try to get your own way or to get out of making changes to be better, because most pot stirrers don't want to change to be better. And leader, you might actually be one of these people. You might be manipulating and strong arming, your team members. You might be manipulating to such a degree that people can't speak up, or you're doing it by spreading negativity, fear and doom and gloom that, oh my gosh, there's layoffs coming and there's rifts that are coming and all these things that you don't know for sure or fact, but you're prophetically speaking that it might be coming, and you're using it to, one, avoid responsibility, but also to gain an advantage. And it's not a healthy advantage to try to gain, and it's having a ripple effect and an impact on your team that's pushing people off your team or pushing people to want to change and leave. So what do you do? What do you do when you find out that you have a pot stirrer, or you've done the self-reflection and you see that you are a pot stirrer? You might actually be that pot stirrer. It's important to note that you can make a change by simply declaring I'm making a change. Like, recognize, wow, I've been inconsistent with my communication, and I've done it because I'm holding on to information and I haven't wanted to share it, and I'm sorry for that. Take responsibility for the actions. Take responsibility for the awareness that you have about, wanting to control things and wanting to create chaos as a sense of control because things have felt so wonky and weird. Start owning it. accepting not only feedback and criticism, but accepting that you may not have all the answers, leader, that your team actually might. And you may have shut them down and stifled them out of your own behavior patterns of stirring the pot and stirring negativity and spreading discord among the team members. I don't think leaders quite realize that. One of the worst things that I've seen is when a team when a team led by a high level leader in an organization who's not bought into the overall mission and vision or the overall strategy that the CEO has put into place, or the executive team has said, this is what we want to do, or this is who we want to be known, seen, and celebrated for, and here's your plan to get there. When we're not bought into that and we're just stirring things up at the next level or two down to create a disconnect between the executive team and what they want and what everybody boots on the ground is doing, that's one of the most dangerous and critical need areas to address in a leader. But it's one of the most destructive that I've seen in an environment, and it pushes people out, and it pushes people to apathy because they don't see how they're going to make a difference, and it pushes people to not wanting to be part of the solution but to just continue to spread the problem or stay silent. And silence is a killer on a team. Not killer in a positive way, y'all, but it kills the morale of the team. Silence does. And so pot stirring, while it can, the outcome of that can be silence across other team members because they just don't want to speak up, or they're in fear and intimidation by the pot stirrer, the leader that's using it as a form of manipulation. They're just not speaking up, and they're just waiting, and they're surfing online looking for their next job opportunity and hoping that it comes along soon. And they're making their way. They're taking pay cuts to get into positions so that they don't need to be with someone who leads like you do, or the lack of leadership. So what do we do with it? We can understand that there's negative behavior patterns in pot stirring, and it impacts the morale of the team, and that spreading rumors and gossiping and creating cliques in an environment is often also a pot stirring behavior pattern. So what do we do when we understand that we have a pot stirrer, or maybe we actually are? Here's the quick and simple approach. We want to get into the negative impact of that. And we want to talk about it with the individual. We want to talk about the situation that's created. We want to talk about the behaviors that we've seen and the impact of those. Because the atmosphere created by a pot stirrer can be toxic. And it can definitely lead to a decrease in employee satisfaction and morale. We know that. It increases turnover rates. The persistent negativity and tension that a pot stirrer fosters can lead to low productivity. We don't want that in our teams. And employees are constantly sidetracked trying to deal with conflicts, or darting, right? They're duck and covering around the conflicts that these pot stirrers are creating in the workplace. So we understand the impact of it. Great. The behaviors, we get clear on it. The situation is that situation of that person we want to address first. We want to address the situation and the behavior, not whether or not we like the individual or the person or not, but the situation and the behavior and the impact that they're having. Expose them to it. Do it through a discovery question process. Expose the situation and the behavior through a powerful questioning. Do you know when? Tell me how it feels. Tell me what caused you. Help me understand. I'm curious. Those are all great questions to start the conversation with your pot stirrer, to seek to understand what is it that's causing this behavior. Now, I can tell you that from my experience, I think that people who are pot stirrers mostly are doing it because they're really quite comfortable operating in chaos, and it actually helps them to feel safe. And so, how do you expose that in a way that's healthy? And how do you expose that in a way that is forward thinking for the goal that you're wanting to get after? Now, if you've uncovered that you have some of the behavior patterns of the pot stirrer, then you want to get a mentor. You want to go to the boss above you. You want to get to your executive team or to your leadership team and say, hey, here's some behaviors I've noticed in myself, and here's the impact of those. What do you think? Is this accurate from your perspective? I'd like to hear what the feedback is. That's one of the best ways to address it for yourself, but also to find a way to offer feedback to somebody who you've discovered is that pot stirrer. Because the negativity out of the fear of losing control is stifling to any team. You can have the best players on the team, but if they are stifled and they don't feel that they are part of the solution for change, or that you as the leader or the leadership team doesn't care about making positive changes, you are stifling them, and they will sit with their arms crossed and their brain shut off and a smirk and scowl on their face that will shut off all positive intention that anyone's going to try to bring for change. And is it worth it? You got to ask yourself at the end of the day, is this worth it? If not, then what? If it's not worth it and we don't want this and we understand, we see the negative impact, then how do we address it? Well, we address the situation, we address the behavior in the individual, we address the impact, and then we co-create together what change looks like. We ask the question, so if not this, then what? What is it that you want? What is it that you need? What are the resources that you need to make that happen? How are we going to make this chaos? How are we going to bring chaos together to calm? How do we do that? Now, there's a certain number of people out there that are going to go, yeah, but Tammy, chaos is good. I thrive in chaos. Okay, but do the members of your team thrive in chaos? Are they motivated by chaos? Or are they terrified by chaos? Are you losing them? Are you getting 40% out of someone who wants to give you 100% every day, but because of the chaos, they can't catch their breath and catch up? And you've stirred that pot so much that they're just giving you 40% of their effort. And they're telling you they're overburdened and overtaxed. What's overburdening them, friend, and overtaxing them is the brain power that your chaos is causing. Hello, pot stirrer. Takes one to know one. I can relate to this sentiment on many, many levels. I will stir things up in environments. Now, I'm intentional when I go in with teams to stir things up, because I'll drop questions in there to stir things up, because I'm gauging what kind of reaction I'm going to get in the room. So I know what I'm dealing with and what I'm working with. Am I working with solution focused people, or am I working with people who have given up and they just are really okay with the status quo? Because then I know how to address that. I know then how to get at the heart level of, are you really okay with the status quo? Is that what you came to this job to do? See, I can go in and be a pot stirrer, you bet. But I do it from the perspective of wanting to learn, because I'm seeking to understand so I can help a team or an organization make a transformation. Okay, so y'all don't know how to do that yet. Okay, maybe you don't ever need to know how to do that, because in the role that you hold and the function that you have in your team or as the leader, if you're stirring people's emotions just to get a reaction and you're not giving them the opportunity to ask for help for a solution, or if they can't and they're drowning and they're treading water trying to figure out a solution to the chaos you just throw into the middle of the office, you have a responsibility, leader, to step in and go, let's talk about this and let's calm this down. You are all whole, capable, creative, and resourceful to get through this issue. Let's back up and let's go to the beginning and start over. That's how you bring calm and confidence to the chaos, so that you can use that as a learning opportunity to see the capacity of your people. Yes, that's great if you can do it in a constructive way. But if you can't, and you're just lobbing hand grenades into the middle of the team, you're causing problems that you can't afford in your workplace for much longer, most likely, because those great people are going to want to leave, because all they see you doing is bringing destruction and chaos and not actually helping them see their way through to success. So let's explore the impact of a positive leader who doesn't spin chaos and who isn't a pot stirrer. A strong leader, we know, can dramatically impact the team and the culture of an organization and drive company success. And we know that their positive influence can increase employee satisfaction. Studies are clear. We also know that it reduces rates of turnover and boosts productivity when the leader is positive at the front. Now, I'm not talking about sing kumbaya. I'm not talking about sit around the campfire and, sing songs together and play the guitar. I'm not talking about that. Not that that's bad. There's a place and time for it. What I'm talking about, though, is that you're boosting productivity through showing people and telling people that they have what it takes to get the job done, and you believe in them, and you're positive about that and optimistic. You inspire your team to perform at their best, fueling innovation and encouraging continual learning and growth. And your balanced approach to addressing challenges and celebrating successes promotes a healthy, productive work environment where employees feel valued and they feel they're motivated to contribute. And that's ultimately what every leader wants that I talk to. They want employees that are proactively contributing to the success of the organization or to the future or to the growth, to the ideas. They want people to contribute to what's possible. Okay? That's being a healthy, positive, and constructive leader. Now, in the action plan for this episode, you're going to get a step-by-step process to transition from being a pot stirrer to one of those effective, healthy leaders that we talked about. And you're going to get a worksheet on exactly how to do that. And I want to share this little bit of research with you. The American Institute of Stress revealed that 80% of workers feel stress on the job. Nearly half say that they need help in learning how to manage that stress. That's huge. And while the study doesn't categorize the source of stress, we could say it's plausible that it's from those leaders that create that chaotic environment, from those pot stirrers that are comfortable in that disruption, but it's actually causing conflict in the workplace, and it's causing a large number of people to want to look elsewhere. And the study that was published in the Journal of Business and Psychology found a correlation between traumatic experiences and counterproductive work behavior. So, what does that mean? Employees who had experienced trauma were more likely to engage in behaviors that disrupt the workplace, underscoring the importance of addressing trauma and providing adequate support in the workplace. Why is that important? Because if, as it says here, is true, and I believe that it is, the traumatic experiences create a counter. There's a correlation between traumatic experiences and a counterproductive work behavior. And employees who had experienced that trauma are likely to engage. Why? Because that trauma, there is a very real thing with trauma brains that they're always trying to recreate the chaos or stay in that phase of that place of chaos because they know how to control it there. What actually is hard for them is when it's calm because they don't know how to be in that environment. And I see it all the time. I see people that are fighting against overcoming something traumatic that happened. But they're keeping that fight on in the workplace, and they can become a pot stirrer of negativity, breeding that in the workplace. But it's rooted in something that's completely unrelated to work. And I think that's so profound and so significant, more significant than profound. It's significant for us to listen to that as leaders. What is our role in helping to unpack the root cause of the chaos or the pot stirring that's being brought into the workplace by someone, by a group of people or an individual? Our role is to dig underneath it and get to the root, to unpack it with the employee or with the members on the team so we can understand the motive behind it. Because until we understand the motive behind it, we're never going to be able to help the individual solve it. Until we understand the motive behind it for ourselves, we're never going to be able to solve it. Now, it's not my individual to go into every team or your individual leader to go in and actually solve the problem, but to get to the root cause, to help give the tools so that people can solve it. Absolutely, that's our role. And I look forward to doing that every single day. What's important about that? My motivation is about the good for the individual and the good for the whole. It's not about me. Different from a pot stirrer, their motivation tends to be personally motivated, and it's about a power dynamic and control. So you want to check in with yourself. What's my motivation? Check in with your people. Tell me what your motivation is. You're going to hear the words. You're going to hear the right words of whether or not they're in it for power and control, or whether or not they're in it for something different or are ready for something different. Because I don't believe that people are really comfortable in that chaos that they're creating in the pot stirring stage. I think that actually makes them uncomfortable and they actually want to see some changes. They just don't know how to get there. And you might just be the leader to help them. So here's the last and final thing that I want to say. In any workplace, leadership holds an essential role in shaping the dynamics and productivity of the team. However, when individuals in these vital positions engage in disruptive behaviors such as pot stirring or allow pot stirring and the impact it has on the team members, it can lead to a toxic environment that hampers progress and cooperation. Pot stirrers, as leaders, often instigate conflicts for personal gain, and their actions, driven by motivations such as seeking attention, insecurities, or the desire for control, can significantly disrupt team harmony and performance. Understanding these habits and behaviors is the first step towards fostering a transformative journey from divisiveness to collaboration. So, leader, my question for you is this: are you ready for that journey? Hey there. Thank you so much for joining me in the podcast sandbox today. It's been fun talking with you about pot stirrer versus leader and which one are you? You know, it's a topic that I don't think we really talk enough about around when leaders in the workplace are lobbing those little chaos bombs into the center of a conversation just to see what kind of reaction they get, or the leaders that allow people to be disruptive on a team because they kind of think they like it, or they think that it somehow makes people more productive. When in fact, those people, the pot stirrers that like to just stir up chaos, and we never really get to the root issue of the why behind them wanting to do that. And it certainly is not helpful in any way to the performance or productivity, as we talked about in the episode, of the team. I have great tools over at tammyjbond.com/podcast. Click on this episode to get the action plan, because I have worksheets and I have different tools that you can use to uncover the situation, the behavior, the impact, and have those conversations with the team member that might be the pot stirrer, but also to have the conversation with yourself and to enroll the assistance of a colleague to help you if you've identified with some of the traits of a pot stirring behavior in the workplace, because the impact on the team is truly negative. And if you have high turnover, or you feel that your team is disengaged, we probably want to take a tally and take an assessment to see who's stirring chaos in the team, who's the pot stirrer that's stirring things up for their own personal gain and their own personal motivation. They will never come out and tell you that it's their own personal motivation. But as the studies show, it really is rooted in that, for a reason that's up to you as leader to uncover. So my hope today is that you're leaving with some new tips, tools, and strategies to navigate your personal leadership, your team leadership, and your next bold conversation. And hey, it would mean so much to me if you headed on over to whatever platform you listen to this podcast. Leave a thumbs up, 5-star review, leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you about how this topic on pot stirring versus leadership impacted you today. And it would mean so much if you took a moment, because I know third-party affirmations go a long way, to share this with a team member as well. Maybe listen to this episode in your next team meeting, just to see what comes up and to see what questions your team might bring to the table. And don't forget to head on over to tammyjbond.com/podcast. Click on this episode to get your copy of the action plan. There's more tools for you there. And remember, friend, leadership is not something that you're born with. It's something that you grow into. So thank you for taking time today to grow into your next level of leadership. Make it a great day.